Bila Plume goon should start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Lay a one foundation, always gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts with a cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. Spun the block, turns out I been black rock.
What's going on, folks? It's the Underdog Research Channel, and I'm here with another Plume report uncovering and explaining the depths about Plume. Now, before I get started, let me get you into this to make sure that you do this each and every time. This is a very visually intensive discussion of Plume like no one else provides you. Place this on a big screen right now so you can see the full details so that you won't miss anything. And if you like this type of coverage, press share to others and subscribe to get insights and access to deeper dives within this, which I'll be talking about today as well. But today we are talking about Plume. Let me make sure that I get this for everyone shared across my platforms, and then you should be in a good place, and then we'll get right into it. So last time we talked about Plume, we were talking about how this project is moving. We was talking about the things that people don't really realize about Plume, and that is one, that Plume is one of those projects that gives you a lot of information, but you don't always take the time to go into the insights, the intelligence. Well, let me give you some information about what they have provided you lately. Then let's get into it. So we talked about in the very last Plume report, you saw the investigation into this cryptocurrency project continue. I gave you an overview that on January 21st of 2026, after going through many of the posts, that not everything that you see will just be there for you easily to understand. You have to look deeper if you truly are trying to put yourself in a position to win, and this is what I found. So as I explore into this, we find that this post that Plume provided, this one singular post gave us a lot of insights. And what was the overall thing that you got from that? You got 4 pieces of intelligence, and those 4 pieces of intelligence pointed to one thing and one thing only: that Plume is ready for Wall Street, and Wall Street is ready for Plume, and that they have created an ecosystem that's putting them in a position while they have identified that Wall Street itself is changing to receive tokenized assets. And in order to do all these things, you had to recognize this intelligence, that there was 4 key insights that they told you about that prepared them for what's to come. So that tells us something for real researchers, not these people who just hype something up. I'm talking about for real researchers during a bear market. You have to prepare for what's coming. The hype is not good enough. So anti-money laundering laws. They told you about that in the last Plume report, that they posted this in January, that they were anticipating Wall Street to go tokenization with assets and other type of tradable stocks, bonds, securities, you name it. And they said that they are ready, and they integrated these 4 different aspects to Plume Network. So now we know it's a part of the system, but what are they? So this is where it comes handy to be a member. What I'm going to do, and what I have done, is connected this in my connected series for a Plume Intelligence Report. This is accessible to my members only so that you can get the full overview through the Plume report. But if you want those deeper insights, I'm going to provide that to you. You press the QR code that you'll see in the description, or press join, or scan a QR code if you see that in any of my videos, and you can get there. And what insights did we find out? We found some data. We found some insights. We found some control. And one of the things I knocked off that list was Forta and the connection to Plume Network, and a surprise connection to another project that I had previously researched. Wall Street is watching crypto. and how they're watching crypto. Now, I know you might be thinking to yourself, you're like, Underdog, what is the value? What do we need to get from that? I'm so used to hearing people online telling you that this project, if you look at the token analysis and you look at, what they used to trade for, this project is going to do 100x. See, that's the difference between me and those other people. Those other people are giving you the things that sounds great during a great market. Anything can go up during a great market. The key is to identify the things that are important during the market's not doing great and to put yourself in that position where you can acquire the projects that you want to acquire at the amount you want to acquire it and save yourself time and money in that research. This is intelligence, folks. This is where the money is. The bear market is the market where you can find growth in your own bags and in a project that may have been overlooked because you didn't know what to look for. So Forta Network was what we found out. We found out that Forta Network was a particular technology. I did a video insight and I allowed everyone to see that. And there was 3 other ones, though, that we did not touch, which will be provided to you in a next upcoming members only access to this particular information. But what did you learn about Forta? In short, Forta has a AI firewall. This AI firewall continues to get smarter and smarter. And it also gives you access to blocking certain transactions, keeping bad actors out of the project Plume, which is important for this anti-money laundering aspect. Without this, folks, institutional investors won't want Plume. They want projects that can keep their clients' money and assets safe. So this is one of 4 things that we're going to cover. Now, don't let it get past you, folks, that this is not over. Do you need to know more about this ecosystem that Plume itself told you that they're a part of? You got Forta Network, you got Predicate, you got TRM Labs, and EY Nightfall. This is going to be accessible to my members at the analyst level, and you'll get insights on all of these things because it's not enough to just get an overview about what is happening with the project. This is confirmed information, but if you don't know the value of these entities within that ecosystem, how can you best plan? How do you know how many projects that are going to have value and will last the long haul? That is why it's important. Now, something I think is important before we get into the depths of this week's Plume report is this. In 2023, November the 29th, there's an article that was produced that says Fort price forecast, a hidden gem in crypto space. Now, I gave that out because I thought it was interesting. This investigation is about Plume. This investigation is about who Plume touches and the reason why they're telling you about these people in the ecosystem. But as we go down this journey learning about Plume, if we find out about other projects that may have value, if you don't know about them, it doesn't give you value. So I think it's important to recognize that this project is on Coinbase. Is it a good project or not? That's not for me to decide, but now you'll learn a little bit more by going to this video, looking through the work I did as we found this intelligence on Forta, and find out about the Fort token to see if that technology is something that you're interested in, and it may also interest you as well. They're working with Plume. That must mean something. So I think that's important. So as we went through that, I noticed something throughout that investigation in the last Plume report. In the Forta Network, who is also, as I stated, connected to Plume, as we found out through Plume's own post right here, that Forta Network on January 21st of 2026, they announced is a part of their ecosystem for Plume for their Nest product. So now we want to find out who's in the ecosystem for Forta. So I look at the latest ecosystem map for Forta. We found out that they don't always post their updated partners in ecosystem. For security reasons, they like to keep those bad actors guessing. But I found out through this research something quite interesting. We found out that I had talked about one of their partners right here, P-Stake, which is made by a company called Persistence. And I had discussed this project recently and researched about a whole nother cryptocurrency project and a whole different money rail system about cross-border payments and remittances. And it was in episode 5 of this conversation last year. And if you can find it, is a part of my Connected series. For those who are members, you'll see this right here, episode 5. And I identified that this project has come up before, and they're connected to Forta, and this is connected to Plume. So let's find out what that's about. So I brought to your attention that on May 8th of 2023, I found a connection that I had provided research on last year, where Persistence, who is the creator of the P-Stake, which is in the Forta network, and the Forta network is part of the network connected to Plume, and it does work for Plume. Why? For anti-money laundering. For what? Wallstreet. And why? For tokenized assets. All this is connected. But what does Persistence do? Well, reading here, we found out that staking as an asset class, that's Switzerland, folks, institutional fund is jumping in. On May 8th of 2023, we found out that Persistence is helping institutions find yield. That means find money, folks, with its white labeled staking service. Now, Persistence in this article is connected to this company in Switzerland called Tavis Digital. Tavis Digital has billions of dollars in AUM, assets under management, in the field of staking as a asset class. Look at it there, folks. You can see it clearly. Now, staking as an asset class, Wallstreet does the same thing. This is the Switzerland version of what we see in Wallstreet. This is a big company with billions of dollars connected to Persistence. Persistence is connected to the Forta network, and Forta network is connected to Plume. Wallstreet, they're getting ready for tokenized assets. Persistence is connected to a company that has tokenized assets that's worldwide distributed, including the United States, from Switzerland, where everyone knows since World War I that all the countries, all the wealth in the world has always went to Switzerland as a fund to protect people's assets. Is it a coincidence, or is there a plan? That is why we research, folks. So the P-Stake, we found out as we introduced that P-Stake by Persistence in the Forta ecosystem, and the Forta ecosystem is called Fort, which is on Coin Market Cap. You can find it there, and Coinbase, it is traded. And again, as we stated here, this is intelligence extracted from Plume Network itself, because they have a network level transaction monitoring by Forta Network. And that means we need to know everything we need to know about Forta Network. That's why we have the Plume report. And that's why we have deeper analysis access for those who just got to know where the money's coming from, who's behind it, and what the bigger connection is. This is called a circular economy, folks. The Plume Network is giving you that. So now let's get into this deeper research. So now that we gave you an overview about where, when, how, the 5 W's, if you count them all together, now we're going to go into this aspect of it. We need to also recognize that there's other ecosystems we need to pay attention to. Just like we saw P-Stake is connected to Forta and Forta is connected to Plume, we also found in previous research that XPRT token is also made by Persistence, and this is connected to a project called Swift Blockchain. And sure enough, I had tracked this connection all the way back to Switzerland through a Connected series, just like Plume Report, a crypto investigation, through a protocol that they have called MetaPath. And MetaPath transfers any digital assets, metaverse, cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, cross-border, and interesting, folks, did you know that they're connected to the Emerging Technologies Fund 1, which is a fund created from Arcanium Capital, and Arcanium Capital is all the way in the United States, but connected directly to Tavish Digital, and Tavish Digital, who I just told you about, who has billions of dollars in funds that they manage and are regulated, just like the SEC through their regulation in Switzerland, has a partnership with Persistence. And you know what's interesting? The Arcanium Capital and Tavish Digital invested into the same fund which Arcanium Capital is over. And you know who invested in that? This guy to the right called Tim Draper. Now, you may not know who Tim Draper is if you're watching anything else other than SwiftCoin, because a lot of people don't know he's a huge player in the game. And to the right of him is a person that you might know. He is the CEO and creator of Polygon. Did you realize that's something that's very interesting, folks? Look at these individuals on the screen. So today you found out while looking at the Plume report that there is a connection down the rails between a Switzerland company that is in staking as an asset class. It's the BlackRock of Switzerland, Tavish Digital, who has a partnership with Persistence, and Arcanium Capital has a fund called the Emerging Technologies Fund 1, who Tavish Digital invested in so they can invest in American companies. And then Tim Draper, American billionaire in California, and Polygon, their CEO, who's from India, all invested in the same fund. And that's connected to this project, which goes, again, backwards, reverse engineering, connected to Forta, and it's in the Forta network. And now Forta network is connected to Plume. We got to follow the money rails. The bigger the ecosystem, the more people utilize it, the more countries and people are behind it, the more that has value. Not only for Forta network itself, but everything it touches. So this is important. We just found out something new, folks. Aren't you glad you watched Underdog Research Channel? Because I don't think you would have learned that if you simply looked at the post from January 21st of 2026. Now, we got a little bit more to get into. So as I wrap up what we learned from the last conversation, I want to make sure that I go further. Wallstreet, the New York Stock Exchange, is ready for tokenized assets, and Plume Network is ready for them. But this is where it left off. In the last video, as we discussed this in the Plume Network report, I brought up the Chief Strategy Officer, Shuki Ma, and they made this post, and I'm going to read it to you. On January 23rd, 2026, the post says, glad to co-host this session in Hong Kong with Alloy X Limited. Our CSO walked through Plume's approach to helping RWAs move on-chain and integrate with DeFi. And then below it, you can see we were pleased to co-host the 22nd Allo X Hong Kong on-site series with Plume Network under the theme, the synergy of platforms, distribution, and institutional execution layers. The session brought together industry players. That's it. Or is it? Folks, I'm going to make this point now. I hope that you got this shared. If you like this type of content, make sure you press subscribe right now. If you want to get deeper insights right now, then I encourage you to make sure that you are pressing join, become a member so that you can join and get the access to more data as I break down these individual intelligence key insights that I have discovered as we do the Plume report. Let me show you what you missed if that's all you read. So if you read that, that's all Plume gave you. Plume gave you this post, and you might be satisfied with that. And you're like, okay, cool. That's it. Thanks for that post. And then you moved on. But I don't move on, folks. I'm a dog on meat. Underdog is my name. So let's see what you could really see if you reveal it. So here is an intelligence insight. Underdog Plume Intel. AXG Alloy X Group. This is this company that the chief strategy officer told you about and the company that's in Hong Kong. This is what you'll find out. AlloX Group, AXG, is a global leading financial technology firm with its core focus on digital currency payments and asset tokenization. Founded in 2016, it has dedicated to bridging traditional and decentralized finance by building a secure, efficient, and compliant financial infrastructure that provides integrated digital asset solutions for global investors and institutions. Backed by the leading institutional investors, the company manages compliant and transparent digital assets that are closely connected to the real economy. The company is committed to establishing itself as a leading global digital asset financial platform, driving a seamless convergence of traditional finance and Web3 economy. Now, AXG has context. Before, it was just a post that was posted on the 23rd of January of 2026. Now we got context. Plume sent their chief strategy officer to Hong Kong. Who is over Hong Kong? What country? You know what country it is. Why? Plume is a United States company. They have a big Asian rails. The most advanced internet penetration in the world is by Asian countries. The digital dollar is actually there in that country. Now, let's talk about this. If you look deeper into the post that you see on Plume, you will find that the chief strategy officer, Shuki Ma, is here, and we go over this. And you see in the background, they talk about Wisdom Tree, and I discussed that, and Wisdom Tree and Solana, and they're pitching this as they stated they would do. And we go deeper. The thing they have on this post is this post right here. But what does it say? See, if you don't speak Chinese or read Chinese, then again, the problem with this post is it gives you no context. It's intelligence, folks. So let's find out. So I did some intelligence. This is what they posted on Plume Network on the English channel. I can't read it. So this is what it says. The translation of this, it shows you the AXG Plume jointly hosted a 22nd seminar, Digital Assets and Cryptocurrency Ecosystem Development Forum, Scaling Digital Assets, Collaborative Pathways for Platforms, Distributed Institutions, and Executives. This was on January 22nd at 2026, Thursday, between 1600 and 1800, and it was in central Hong Kong. So now we see exactly what this says. And we have a little bit more context. We know that AXG, who they are, what they do, and we also know they're in Hong Kong and what their purpose is. But there was also other intel there. So looking at this again, there was additional intel. I'm seeing Chinese writing on the wall. I can't read Chinese. Maybe you can. I can't. So I said it's important. Intelligence is about picking out details, and you make the decision whether or not that's usable or not. I've already received a lot of information from this. I've received exactly who AXG is, AlloX Group, what they stand for, when they started, what they're bridging with banks and blockchain, and what they're backed by, leading institutional investors, and the country they're backed in. So that tells me I might need to pay attention if you're sending a chief strategy officer all the way overseas, because maybe there's something in the works that we need to know about, which is the catalyst for Plume here and all over globally. Okay, so let's see here. So we look at this, we see there's some intelligence we need to find out. We see there's another picture, and we can't read that picture. So we already translated that. So now you can see the translation was the original slide that I showed you here. So now I know what he has on his slide. But then I looked at the walls, and I still want to see what they have here. Who is this on the wall? Who are these people? So sure enough, this is AlloX, and we see the pictures say the following: Intel. This is Underdog Plume Intel. Make it so there are no difficult transactions in the world. Customer-centered, striver-oriented, long-term hard work and perseverance. So that is the intel that we get from the walls. and that was not listed here. So we have AXG, and now we know what they do, and we know why they're there. They are there connected in Hong Kong, China, and they are connected to big banks, institutions for tokenization and real world assets. And they're 24/7 mobilizing their money. So Plume is there making connections. Why? Because crypto is a global market. And even if we go further, Chris Yin, who is the co-founder of Plume, made a statement last year in an interview that he said that the Asian markets are the markets that are right now the most invested in real world assets. So if you want your project to take off, you might want to pay attention to what's happening in Asian markets. Because if you're in an island by yourself and you don't have partners and people that are connecting with you, then the project's not going to go anywhere. So what I like about this is when people say there's no news, they're not telling me when's the project going to go up. Right here, folks. This tells us everything we need to know. Make it so there are no difficult transactions in the world. That is the statement of Alloy X, who, as we found out through this post, the singular post, this is what they stand for. And Plume approached this company in helping real world assets move on chain and integrate with DeFi. So apparently, since they are now been in business since 2016, and they're backed by leading institutional investors, and they manage compliant and transparent digital assets and connected to the real economy, and they're establishing themselves as a leading global digital asset financial institution, Plume is making the move for the big bucks. They want that network to connect to Plume. And they want to integrate Plume Network into what they do. Can you imagine if they're already receiving all this money and they're already got the connections, and Plume can take advantage of that and give them something of value for what they have of value, then this gives us a indicator for the future. So that's what you missed if you only saw the post on January 23rd, 2026. Now, going further through this, let me bring this to you. As we look through the rest of this intelligence, I want you to recognize that this is something that needs to be explored more. So for my members, become a member at the analyst level, I'm going to be doing an overview, just like I did for Forta, of the Alloy X Group, also known as Solomon Holdings, which is a key insight of intelligence that was stated to us by Plume Network. We need to see exactly what AXG is, because you can't give it value, folks, unless you understand it. Let's keep going. Now, folks, we're going to continue with this conversation, and let's get into what we're talking about next. On January 26th of 2026, there is this post by Julian Payne. They talk about him and they being Plume. And who is Julian Payne? He's an asset and business development research analyst. Now, think about that, folks. Think about what you're hearing right now. You heard for the first time about Julian Payne. This is what I'm going to continue to do on the Plume Report. We're going to put faces and names together. You're going to know who these people are. I'm going to keep saying their names. I'm going to keep showing their faces so that when you know Plume better than anybody else in the market. So the next time you look at CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and you look at the comments where people are just giving random comments about the project, you can say they absolutely don't know much about this project. I know who these people are, and I know what they do. So Julian Payne is the asset and business development research analyst for Plume. He was spotlighted in this post. Let's see what they said. On January 26th of 2026, Plume says, thoughtful breakdown of on-chain private credit dynamics for our asset and business development research analyst, JLX Payne. Worth a read. Now, I read this, but I want you to read the summary of what they posted from Julian Payne. It says, tokenized private credit and its consequences on DeFi. Tokenized private credit and its consequences on DeFi. I've spent the past few days thinking and working on some words to help the average DeFi users get a better understanding of private credit as it is. Now, think about that, folks. You saw this post on January 26, 2026. You might have saw it and you said, okay, cool. And then you went to the next thing because our attention spans are low. But if it was so important that Plume puts it on their network, why did they post it? And why did they feature the asset and business development research analyst? So it gets me thinking, why is private credit important? Let me tell you how huge this is. I told you I'm going to give you the intelligence, folks. Are you willing to hear it? Here's the intelligence. Why is private credit became huge and why is it connected to Plume? So private credit exploded after the 2008 financial crisis. Banks became heavily regulated and pulled back from risky lending. That created a gap in the market. Private funds stepped in to fill it. Today, the market is enormous. 1.5 trillion to 2 trillion. And some of the names you've seen before that are connected to this market of 1.5 trillion to 2 trillion are Blackstone, Apollo, and KKR. And yes, folks, Blackstone, Apollo, these companies are connected to Plume and the Nest product. But I want you to see that 1.5 trillion. So Plume today in 2026, January 26th of 2026, Julian Payne, the asset and business development research analyst, gave an article about tokenized private credit and its consequences on DeFi. And they want you to look at this because it says specifically a thoughtful breakdown of on-chain private credit dynamics and our asset manager for this. So Plume is in this space. So now we know how much money it is. I want you to recognize this. What really caused the Great Recession? This is an article on September 19th of 2018, referencing back in time the 2008 financial crisis. This is 10 years later. I'm just going to read a part of it. The Great Recession devastated local labor markets and the national economy. 10 years later, Berkeley researchers are finding many of the same red flags blamed for the crisis. Banks making subprime loans and trading risky securities. Congress just voted, and Frank Provisions does another recession lie around the corner. So this market, this conversation of Plume Network and how they fit is bigger, folks, than just simply a token. We often, if you're in the crypto space like I've been in for quite some time, we often forget that the cryptocurrency is only a medium of value. The technology and the problem it resolves is the actual tech. So as we look at this conversation, there's got to be a place where you have 1.5 to $2 trillion flowing through, regulated, safer, and less risk. And you have a market of people that the gap is being filled ever since this recession happened, the Great Recession in 2008, by private credit lenders like Blackstone and others who are in this market. Plume is saying to you here, this article is touching on the reason it was important is because they have a solution for many of the people in this market that's more secured, that can get this private credit lending to its consumers through the Plume product. That's the point. We got to think outside the box of the token ecosystem and the price action of value. And got to think about these institutions. Do they think it has value? And I think they do. Now, let's keep going with the conversation on the Plume Network report. Hope that y'all enjoying this conversation about Plume Network. We continue with the January 26, 2026, Shuki Ma. She is the Chief Strategy Officer. She makes this post that Plume also posts. It says, the future of RWAs is built to move. Join us on February 10th in Hong Kong during Consensus 2026 as our CSO delivers a keynote on bringing RWAs on chain. And then below, it tells you that the future of finance has no ramp. We're merging TradeFi and Web3 and seamlessly flow. Join us in Hong Kong during Consensus for a full day of no ramp experiences. So think about this, folks. We just saw on the 26th that she's going to Hong Kong. Well, we saw that on the 23rd, she was in Central Hong Kong. On the 23rd, she's talked to the Alloy X group, AXG. Now, on the 26th, we found the Chief Strategy Officer is talking to OSL, and they have this in Hong Kong on February the 10th. And it kind of makes you think, if you see the writing on the walls, they are what they say they are. Believe them. Maybe we should focus on the Hong Kong, China market. Maybe we should focus on what developments and laws are happening and how this Plume Nest or Plume ecosystem can benefit these legal changes and this change and merger between these two. There's more information here. We got OSL. Now, OSL Global, engineering and consultancy, rail systems, power and energy, water and waste, advanced technology. This is a huge company. Reading about OSL a little bit, let me give you a little bit about OSL. On February 14th of 2025, this is posted in Hong Kong News. It says OSL is a publicly listed company dedicated to digital assets. Today announced the launch of its new global branding, representing the group's renewed positioning, mission, and vision in the rapidly evolving digital asset industry. The new logo and branding OSL will be highly recognizable for more markets, and group expands in offering the presence across global digital asset landscape. Now, the transformation underscores OSL's commitment to continuous innovation and its bold mission to create a world where individuals and business can access digital assets in a trusted, secure environment. And that was the Kevin Koo, the executive director and CEO of OSL. And they have been around since 2018. We also found out that the forefront of digital asset industry striving for excellence in providing innovative solutions for institutions, professional, and retail investors. As a leading player in digital asset space, OSL Group is committed to a long-term strategy with rich history and experience in the sector, backed by a track record of regulatory compliance and excellence. The world's first insured and SFC licensed digital asset platform, OSL Group, we envision the future of finance and digital assets and are dedicated to guiding our clients through that dynamic landscape. Now, folks, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. What clues have we found? What intelligence can we gather from these posts? See, you might have just clicked on that post and kept going, but Underdog keeps going. I leak and look. And I look again and I find out the details that matter. We got now another name, OSL Global, a company. We found another name on top of that, AXG, both of them in Hong Kong. She's already in Hong Kong, the Chief Strategy Officer on the 23rd. She goes again to a different thing and she goes to Consensus and on the 26th. And with this on the 26th right here, we're finding out a lot of information, folks. That's the devil's in the details. Now, here's the thing. If you look at this post even closer, I want you to pay attention to this one part that I think is important. This part right here is very important. On January 25th of 2026, OSL within that post, if you were to look at it, shows you that on 10 February, 2 o'clock p.m., the No Ramp Tour deep dives into with leaders from Anchorage, Blockdaemon, Plume Network, AWS Cloud, and Luma. So OSL shows you who's in the room. So maybe if OSL already has these people in the room and there's a partnership that they're working on, this could be a future aspect that could affect the network of Plume. This could be a catalyst, just like the AXG. So that is what I want to know. We need to pay attention to the details, folks. These are the people: Anchorage, Blockdaemon, Plume Network, AWS Cloud, Luma, all in the same room in Hong Kong. We got to understand that connection. So the OSL tour, February 2026, the No Ramp Night is the tour name. And this is interesting that you may not know. Doing some research into that on January 29th of 2026, I found out that OSL Pay has a connection in United States dollars. And this was posted: seamless USD access for OSL Pay users. Singapore, January 29th, 2026. It says the stablecoin native settlement layer powering global finance today announced that OSL Pay, the payment infrastructure arm of OSL Group, has adopted Straits X DVA dedicated virtual accounts infrastructure and enables seamless USD access to its users. The adoption marks a growing shift among digital asset payment platforms towards standardized infrastructure and fiat connectivity as users experience scalability become critical differentiators in institutional and digital assets. So, folks, January 29th of 2026, which is, let's just pay attention, folks, the same day of the network connection with Plume. Coincident? I don't think so. OSL Tour Ramp is launched, and then they announce after this meeting that now there's a connection between OSL Pay and USD markets through OSL. You can't make this stuff up. Now, we're going to get through this. There's a little bit more I want to share with you. We have a little more time to go through the Plume Report. Remember, the Plume Report is an overview of what Plume has verified and stated in their post. And what I do is go through these and I break it down and go deep into the intelligence from those posts. And how can you get those intelligence? Again, press subscribe so you can get the Plume Report. If you want to go deeper and find out more information, I'm going to share it to you again because I think it's important. Make sure there's going to be a QR code on some of my videos, or press join. And if you get this access, you can get the layered coverage so that you can get the data, the insight, and control your future in the connected series from our members at the analyst level. So let's get into that. Make sure that you participate, put this on big screen, and let's keep going. So we are now finishing up this aspect, and I think that it's worth mentioning this portion right here. I found a episode that they posted on Plume Network, and it was episode 5 of Layer 1, hosted by Blockchain's Kelvin Sparks and Hypha founder Stephen Gates, and it was recorded with Ava Labs General Counsel Lee Schneider and Plume General Counsel Salman Banai. So this is a huge post. Layer 1 is pretty huge. Kevin Sparks and Stephen Gates have this podcast. What interests me in this, because Plume Network showed that they were on this podcast, but they have a different perspective. They have the general legal counsel, the attorney for Plume, who's talking. And in this, you can find Salman Banai go over a few things. I have it here. You can find this online. You can find this on YouTube as well. And it's broken down in an outline. I'm only going to play 90 seconds, but I think it's important that we are staying on top of the people who matter. If you look at XRP, Ripple Network, you often see their general counsel, who's become quite famous because of the SEC lawsuit where he was entangled in for years until it got resolved. And so now people look for him at conferences to talk about what's going to happen with XRP, Ripple. And I think in this case, we need to better understand Salman Bani is not new to this. This guy right here is on top of his game. He's been a part of the bigger conversation globally and in the United States on all levels, including the highest levels to create regulation, and Plume Network has employed him. So let me say this right now very clearly for everyone. Plume Network is not a token. It's a company. Some projects on CoinMarketCap that you might have are simply tokens. Someone created an ERC20 token or whatever they used, and they deployed it, had a contract, a smart contract, and you bought it. It will go up, go down, it might die. Plume Network has so much equity from what it's building. They have their own general counsel who makes policy at the highest level, and they're connected at the highest level, all the way to the White House. So I think it's important that we take time to get the intelligence out, what he's saying to us. So let's play a little bit about what the general counsel of Plume said at 90 seconds of your time so we can get this information. This is what he said. Let's get this for you right here.
Hello, and welcome to the Layer 1 podcast. My name is Kelvin Sparks. This is my co-host, Stephen Gates, co-founder of Haifa. Joining us today, we have Lee Schneider, General Counsel at Ava Labs, and Salman Bani, General Counsel at Plume. Welcome to the show. How are we all doing?
What this legislation creates is to achieve decentralization, you have one of two pathways. One is you make as much of your smart contract stack as immutable as possible. And then for those smart contracts, you need to have more flexibility in terms of amending them. You have to amend, you have to outsource basically control to a DAO. And so what this does is it creates more friction for projects to achieve product market fit in those early years. And I think the net effect of that is going to be you're gonna see more DAOs. Particularly around managing the parts of the smart contract stack that can't be made immutable. And it's also going to shift, I think, a lot of the product market fit efforts at the labs entities to the application layer, where you could retain flexibility around achieving product market fit over time as the market evolves.
All right. So that was the overview, 90 seconds of what Salman Bani is saying. And again, what is he talking about? He's connecting the governance of what's happening with this clarity and the TradeFi and DeFi and real world assets coming together. And he's discussing the Clarity Act specifically and how this can change Plume Network. And so I think it's a good thing to look at this. It's a very good conversation because I've said since I started my platform years ago, you cannot have growth without regulatory clarity. Legal regulations are essential. And the conversation is deeper than just the law. We saw this when we're looking at the anti-money laundering aspect that I brought up in the last Plume Network report, which I will bring up again. We saw this when Plume itself gave you intelligence by telling you about their connection to Forta Network, Predicate, TRM Labs, EY, Nightfall. This is not coincidence. This is deliberate. EY Nightfall, without going to a whole deep conversation, has a co-creation, a merge, if you will, with Polygon. That's now part of their product. You can look it up. They got about 5 products in this ecosystem of Ernst & Young, EY, Nightfall. It specifically discusses zero knowledge proofs. And if you look at anything online, I talked about that for a whole year. Zero knowledge proofs when no one else was talking about zero knowledge proofs. And you probably still don't know what that means, but I'm here to help show the reasons. That was one layer. Forta Network, they do scanning of the blockchain to prevent these actors who might be nefarious, who do bad things. Predicate is policy. And policy, and I'll go in that to the members who are going to be seeing this deeper dive and get that intelligence on the connected series for Plume Intelligence Report, so I can give you more insights. But in short, they bring this up. Predicate creates policies. What would that be for? Remember, this is not separated. This is all part of the same conversation. How do you get money from Wall Street? You got to be prepared. You got to be ready. If your projects aren't ready, they're not going to get chosen. So predicate creates policies. What kind of policies? Here's one. What about human trafficking? What about money laundering? What about terrorism? Companies accept money from companies and people who do bad things. That is against the law. So drug money, terrorism, you name it, human trafficking, part of the anti-money laundering laws is to prevent your companies from getting that dirty money, that dark money, and transferring through your networks to clean money. This is not new. Predicate creates policies so that it says, hey, this smart contract will not interact with this country or this person or this wallet or any wallets connected, even one story off or 3 lines off from the original wallet, because it's connected to dirty money. So we got someone scanning the blockchain of Plume. You got someone creating policies for the smart contracts so that you can have that better than KYC. TRM Labs works with the FBI, the IRS. They're huge. EY Nightfall does zero knowledge proofs. This is all part of the conversation for anti-money laundering, because that's how Plume Network gets in the business of getting that money. Those money rails, they will be the chosen one. So years ago, we would talk about XRP. Years ago, when XRP was in the lawsuits, when they first came out, before the lawsuit, I should say, everyone said they're banks first, banking first. Cool. So if you have that association with XRP, because there was first movers banking first, then 2012, and then the Ripple Network 2004, which was not even about blockchain, it was about credit cards, and from a Canadian inventor, but that's a whole nother conversation. If you have that mindset about XRP being bank's first choice, then understand this. Plume Network has put into play everything they need to do to become compliance first laws by Congress and regulations first. So when all the legalities are done, we could potentially see a 0 to 1,000 change. And you will wish you was back at the days of Plume sub 2 cents. Now, I can't give you financial advice. I will not. My platform is for education, information, but I just want you to see the value by looking deeper. Why would they have a general counsel? Why would they have a chief strategy officer? Why would they have a business development manager? Why would they go to Hong Kong twice? Why would they make connections with these huge individuals? Why do they have a partnership with some of the biggest names in stable coins all the way to the White House? Why? Because somebody is not looking at price action. Somebody is looking at the future. There is money behind this thing. Your only option is, do you believe in it or do you not? That's what I'm here to help you with, this intelligence, so you can better evaluate what you believe, not what I believe, what you believe. So let's conclude this and get through the bottom of all this for today's conversation. So I want to go through this a little bit deeper, and I want you to see what else was announced. So we also found out that Plume is expanded its ecosystem by being listed on Paribu. Plume is now listed on this exchange, which increases the ability for Plume to be picked up and obtained by the markets in which it's touched. Do you know what markets Paribu touches? That's retail investors, folks. What country is it in? Think about all the things you didn't know if you just simply clicked on this and moved on. That's the point. I want you to start to think like a researcher, not as a retail investor. Now, on January 28th of 2026, we see the co-founder, Chris Yin, will join Portal Ventures on an X Space to talk latent capital markets, featuring Plume Network. So if you watch that, most people might say, well, cool, Portal Ventures. And yes, I think it's important to go into Portal Ventures, but did I do that? No, I did not do that. Because if I read this, it says that the co-founder of Plume will join Portal Ventures to talk about latent capital markets. So maybe we should know about latent capital markets and why Portal Ventures and Plume Networks and Chris Yin are talking about this conversation, unlocking untapped demand for latent capital markets. What's latent capital markets? See, that's what I want you to start doing and start questioning everything you see. And also, who is the founder of Portal Ventures? What do they do? Well, Evan Fisher is the person that is there with Chris Yin. That means they have talked, at least we're on the same stage, learning about what they do. He's the founder and managing partner. He says, nothing's too early for us. Leading first checks into pre-seed companies before PMF is what we do best. More than investors, we're trusted thought partners in business model design, GTM, and fundraising, standing by founders at every inflection point. And he talks about what he used to do. Portal Ventures, Evan was an investor at Insight Partners, the largest global venture fund, where he supported companies in seed pre-IPO. He helped invest $600 million globally in business across crypto, fintech, internet, and software. Evan started his career in the investment banking division at Goldman Sachs. He sits at the intersection of traditional finance frameworks, venture company building, and crypto nativity. And that's what he does. So why is Plume there? What are they talking about when they talk about latent capital markets? So this is what we found out. We found out that Plume, real world assets and tokenizations, is unlocking latent capital markets because there's billions in assets that exist off chain of Plume Network with no easy way for global investors to access, trade, and benefit from them. Real world assets, for example, 400 trillion in real estate, credit, commodities, and private equity. Heard that before? Illiquid and inaccessible to most investors. Latent market, massive value, trapped in traditional finance. Tokenization, number 2, converts real world assets into blockchain-based tokens, enables fractional ownership and global settlement. Market unlock makes illiquid assets liquid, programmable, and tradable. And last but not least, number 3, Plume Network, layer 1 blockchain purpose built for RWA compliance, native infrastructure for real assets. And why it matters, provides the rails, activate latent capital markets. So what is this saying? $400 trillion? Are you hearing me? We're not talking about $1 million. We're not talking about $1 billion. We're not talking about $100 billion. $400 trillion in real world estate, real estate, credit, commodities, and private equity, because it is locked. Illiquid means it is not accessible. People can't get to it, but through tokenization provides an opportunity to unlock it, folks, and let Plume Network put it in one of their vaults and nest to get yield from it. Imagine having a house. I give people this example. Imagine having a house and you have a house that's worth $100,000. I know the $100,000 is cheap, but I want to make the numbers easy for you to understand. $100,000 house, and you get the house on Tuesday and you put down $10,000. And let's just make it this example that all $10,000 goes to the principal of the house. So you own how much of that house? If it's $100,000, you own 1/10 of the house. Is that right? 10,000 to 100,000. Yeah, 1/10 of the house. But 90% of the house is debt. You owe a mortgage company debt, but you got this 10,000. You got 1/10 of the house, but you can't get equity out of it. It's locked. It's illiquid. So what do? You unlock it. It's real estate. You get your deed to your house and you show that you put $10,000 on your house. You show it went to the principal of the house in my scenario, and you show you own 1/10 of the house, and you talk to Plume Network. You go to their portal and you take that equity, the $10,000, and you say, I will sell 1% of my 10% and tokenize it, Plume Network. And I think I live in Florida or New York or Bahamas, wherever you live. And I want you to sell it on the market as tokenized. And that means someone in China can buy a little piece of your house. Someone in France can buy a little piece of your house. That means someone in the United States can buy a little piece of your house in Illinois, Mississippi, and they buy a fraction of it. And now you make money. They make money because the house value goes up, and what they put into it was worth $1. And then the house value goes up to that 10%. And now it's worth $2. It doubled. That's what we're talking about. Yield. 400 trillion, folks. Why is that not making you want to jump out of your skin? In this market of real estate, credit, commodities, private equity, and the latent capital markets. These are the type of markets. Latent capital markets. All these are different types of markets that they can unlock. And this is Chris Yin, who was there with Evan Fisher of Portal Ventures, together talking about this money. Folks, that's almost it. There was some intel right there. What do you learn? We found out that private credits, the Clarity Act and Plume, and capital markets were the 3 intel insights discovered on this version, this episode of the Plume Network report. You might have looked through this. You might have checked their X page, but did you recognize those insights? And we found out that we also recognize a key insight from the previous conversation about AXG, Alloy X Group, Solomon Holdings. That was discovered here as well. And we remember from the first time that I brought you these intel insights, the Forta Network, Predicate, TRM Labs, and EY Nightfall. All of these insights that you see here, folks, will be accessible for those who want to know more if you become a member and subscribe to the Underdog Research Channel at the analyst level. I will be doing reviews and overviews of each and every one of these insights so that you can be a true researcher and know what the value of the ecosystem of Plume really is. That is the point. Or the alternative to the Underdog Research Channel is you can go online and you can find anybody who will pull up CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and they're going to tell you today's value of the token. And then they're going to give their opinion. And that's what you're going to be using to determine whether or not you should put $100 in it or not get into it at all. That's what you're going to use as your point of reference. I think not, folks. You're too smart. You're too savvy. You're too for seeking the future to know that you have to do better than that. And that's what the Plume Report will do. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this conversation. This was the other episode that I wanted to make sure I get to you about the Plume Network report and make sure I have everything that we went over today that here for you. And I do. So I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. So folks, at this time, share this on your platforms. Get your family members and friends aware of the Plume report. No one's doing this online, but Underdog Research Channel, and become a member or at least subscribe to the channel. That way you get notified for the Plume report. And if you don't want to get the deeper dives and to get the concise information I provide and the intelligence, that's on you. That's up to you. I don't want to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. But folks, we're going to discover these deeper coverage, the layered coverage on the members only. And we're going to keep going deeper and get those insights through the Plume intelligence report that I will provide to my members. All right, folks, that's all I got. I'm going to turn to you now to see if there's any questions you have for me or bring up who's been here today. And I thank you for watching the Plume report. So let's see what we got. All right, today we have Mike Robo Doe 4708. I'm anxiously awaiting for price to come down so I can get me a big old bag. I know that's right. Look, folks, sub 2-cent Plume is great. Sub penny Plume is better. But remember, in 2025 January timeframe to February timeframe, Plume was 24 cents. So anything sub 24 cents, you're doing really good. Right now is the time in a bear market to look at all your assets and determine if you're going to stay in them, if you're going to move. I can't give you advice, but that's what people are doing. So I showed you a lot of connections. Do you think it has value? That's up to you to decide. I'll never tell you which way, but yes, I agree with you, Mike. This is a good time to build up your bags. That's my personal opinion. All right, we got Jetpack. Good to see you, Jetpack. He's been following Plume, and I good to see you here. He's always showing. Today he posted in a Telegram channel that we both are a part of, that Plume is integrating zero knowledge proofs, which I told everyone last year. I told you, and they talked about that. So it's good to see that he's following that, and also the MasterCard connection. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk about that as we continue with the Plume report. We got the Swiss Don't Talk, Husky Tom, a member. You see that circle by his name? That means he's a member, and it means he has access to this exclusive information. So make sure that y'all are following his lead and doing the same thing. Thank you for being here today. Let me make sure I have this up here so that everyone can see this. All right. We have Hiro Tanami, a longtime member and of the Underdog Research Channel analyst. He says, you're on the big screen. You're coming with some deep connections. Thank you, sir. Bam. I appreciate that. I'm trying to give people some new ways to look at this. So I'm happy you see that. All right. We got Hiro Tanami. The banks are trying to stop the Clarity Act so they can keep our earnings, our money on DeFi, bunch of crooks. I know that's right. Listen, Brian Armstrong of Coinbase CEO talks about this. If you see it, you understand that we've been getting the bad end of the stick for so long that people higher power expect us to keep taking the bad end of the stick. But you don't have to. Be in the right position. So when this floodgate opens up, and maybe Plume Network is that one that opens up for you, that's your decision. You can get back all the things you've lost. FMJ Crypto, good point. Good for you to be here today. I thank you for joining the Underdog Research Channel. And we have FMJ Crypto. It's sad that the pharaohs still exist in Switzerland. All right. That's a good point. All right, folks. That is all for today. You have watched the full Plume report. Check in with me each week for the Plume Network report. And if you don't know, don't get left behind. I am giving the insights, the deeper dives on the Plume Intelligence Report for the members only, where I give data, insights, and the intel that no one's talking about, but I'll give you that information on this site. Until next time, this has been the Underdog Research Channel and the Plume Report. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Be the Plume goons to start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Layer one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts for the cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the hash at. Spun the block, turns out I been black rock. protocol, treasuries, bonds on me, got them padlocked. Been the best out that can imitate. Get the best out, then you integrate. Ask Kondo who Rambo drew first blood while being a great. Everybody then they start boy. I'm in orbit, Stella still, hella Stella though. I like Swift better for the corporates. I'm the enterprise, I tokenize. Hamilton on chain. Zero knowledge, always never improvise. The White House, no my name.